All right, let's go ahead and actually get into gymnosperms in a little bit more detail. So gymnosperm, what it actually means, the technical term, it means naked seed or a seed that doesn't isn't surrounded by a fruit. So it's a seed that is it's not protected by a fruit. Remember the seeds of gymnosperms are actually on the outside of those cones that are produced from those particular types of plants. The leaves of a gymnosperm tree are coated with a waxy material called cutin. This cutin, um, it helps. It's almost like wax paper, if you will. It helps preserve water to where um, water doesn't evaporate as readily when temperatures get too high. Okay, so its main purpose is to help prevent water loss. Now, inside the leaves of a gymnosperm, the sap of one of those trees actually has another chemical inside of it called resin. And then this resin acts as kind of like an antifreeze for a vehicle. It keeps the sap of this particular type of tree, of these gymnosperms, it keeps the sap from freezing in really, really cold temperatures. So that gives these types of trees the ability to stay green year round and photosynthesize year round, even in really cold temperatures, because they have that ability to uh, for the sap to not freeze and cause damage to the leaves and reproductive parts of the tree. Here are a few examples. This is a palm-like tree. These cycads, okay, they have scaly trunks. They have almost like fern-like branches. Okay, there are male and female cones that are produced on separate trees. So there would be a tree just that has the male cones produced, and a tree that just has the female cones produced. Um, when production occurs for these, the male cones will actually um, puff out the cloud of pollen from their cones, and then the wind will carry that pollen, into the air, and that's how the pollen reaches the female cones on the female tree, and that's how reproduction occurs. And there's actually only one species of these found in the U.S., and they're actually found in Florida, so they're not a very popular tree here in the U.S. Another type is going to be found in the deserts. These Gnetophytas. Okay, they could be also found in dry mountainous regions. They're known as tropical climbing plants. Another type are the Ginkgophytas. Okay, the Ginkgophytas. Um, there's only one actual species of this tree that has been found and located on the planet. The Ginkgo biloba. Let's see. Another the most common type when we think of gymnosperms are going to be the Coniferophyta. This phylum is going to be all of the trees that are going to be considered conifers, and they're going to be considered conifers if their leaves are needles, okay, or their needle shape of the leaves. They will also produce cones. Um, most of the conifers, or most of the trees in this group of conifers, the male and female cones are produced on the same tree. Okay, so that helps increase the success of reproduction. When you're looking at one particular tree, the female cones will be larger than the male cones. The female cones are going to house the eggs for the reproduction. The male cones just need to house the pollen. Most are considered evergreen, and I mentioned this earlier because they do have the ability, this particular class of gymnosperms, the conifers, they have the ability to, with resin, that chemical within their leaves, to keep the sap from freezing. They can photosynthesize year round, even in cold temperatures. Some examples: the bristlecone, okay, one of the oldest living trees, oldest types of conifers. Let's see. Some other examples would be your Douglas fir. Douglas fir is a very common type of conifer. We use it a lot during Christmas time for our Christmas trees. Junipers are an example. Aspens. Okay, you can find a lot of these trees in the alpine part of the planet, in the taiga biomes as well. So you're talking northern part of the northern hemisphere, right above the temperate biomes. So closer to Canada you get, these particular these conifers, these gymnosperms will become more prevalent. Up into Canada, obviously the northern parts of Europe, before you get to the tundra where there's little rainfall and no trees, you'll have this band of the taiga biome where most of these particular types of organisms will be found. So gymnosperms, plants that produce seeds that are open, okay, and found on cones. A good common type would be the conifers. The angiosperms is the other group of other class we're going to look at, and they produce seeds that are enclosed within a fruit, or they're going to be considered flowering plants. Okay, so all the flowering plants are going to fall into this angiosperm category. Plants that produce seeds that also produce flowers. And there's if you look at all the total species on the planet of plants, the angiosperms are going to be the most diverse and actually contain the largest group of plants on the planet. Once again, the product of these particular plants is going to be the fruit. They will produce flowers as well, and then the seeds are going to be enclosed within the fruit. The seed structure, which we're about to look at, is going to the way the seeds are built is going to allow them to store food as the embryo grows, as that tree or that plant grows, and then that stored food of that particular seed will be able to use that until leaves are produced and photosynthesis can occur. Now a fruit is just the ovary of that particular angiosperm. So when you're eating an avocado, or you're eating an apple, or grapes, oranges, okay, watermelon, these fruits of these plants are just the ovary. So you're actually eating the ovaries of those plants. That the meat part of, or the flesh part of the fruit, the part that we like to eat, that is the nourishment or the nutrition that the seeds will use as they grow. Sometimes the fruits contain just one seed, sometimes they can contain more than one. So the fruit part of the fruit, like I said, the meat part, it's either going to add add for nourishment, or it's going to help aid that plant in dispersing those seeds. Now, I mentioned dispersing. Let's talk about that real quick. I've talked about it before in an earlier part of these notes, but the dispersal process, think about what's going to eat these seeds, okay? All the different types of animals, whether it be mammals, whether it be birds, whatever type of animals are going to eat these fruits, and then they move. They're going to travel within their particular habitat, and then when they excrete the seeds, that's one way that seed dispersal can occur. An animal eats the fruit, then it moves on to some other area within its habitat, and then it excretes the seeds. Seeds are usually going to not be digestible, and then those seeds then have been dispersed. Then also the movement of water, okay, through like a stream or river. If those particular plants grow by a river or stream, and then as those fruits drop off the tree, they can be dispersed or away from the parent plant through the movement of water, and then obviously wind. Okay. All right. So let's talk about the types of seeds that can grow. A seed is made up of, if you actually look at the components of a seed, it's made up of pieces called cotyledons, and these cotyledons are the different seed leaves. Now we're talking about seeds of angiosperms. So we're looking at another way that we can classify the angiosperms, or the different types of plants that are angiosperms. They can be broken down by the number of seed leaves that are found within the seed itself, or the number of cotyledons that are found within the seed itself. Okay, if it is a seed that has one seed leaf as part of its makeup, it is called a monocot. So if it has one cotyledon, it's called a monocot. Mono meaning one, and then cot for cotyledon. Most of your grasses that flower, your orchids, lilies, palms, okay, that flower and produce fruits, they're going to be monocots, which means their seeds are going to have one seed leaf when it is first produced. And then what I mean by seed leaf, as a seed germinates and grows, it'll produce roots. The roots will access the nutrients in the soil. A stem will start to grow out of the seed, and then once that seed grows a stem, then the seed leaf inside of it will bloom or blossom. And then if there's one leaf, okay, that one leaf then can go through photosynthesis and then help that plant make its own food, and it can grow and so forth. So that's a monocot, if it has one leaf that is going to be produced by that seed. The dicots, di meaning two, okay, cot for cotyledon, so the dicots are going to have, the seeds are going to contain two leaves. So we're going to call those dicots. Almost a little over double of the angiosperms on the planet are going to be considered dicots. Most of your shrubs, most of your trees that lose their leaves, like oak, hickory, maple, most of your common trees that lose their leaves are going to be considered dicots. Your wildflowers, the blue bonnets in this area, okay, most of your wildflowers are going to fall in this category. Your garden flowers, your roses, your chrysanthemums, okay, and then your herbs. Those are all going to be types of dicots, which means when their seeds start to germinate and grow, the leaves that are produced, the first leaves that are produced, there will be two of them that can go through photosynthesis. So you have monocots, which is going to be one leaf in the original seed, and then dicots, which would be two leaves. You have a nice picture here, a nice representation to let you know the characteristics. Okay, your dicots, the seed is going to be more circular in shape. You notice that it has two of the cotyledons, okay, split in half by this germ layer, if you will. Okay, so it has two leaves for the dicot. Its flowers that are produced is usually going to be in multiples of 4 or 5. Okay, so if you look at this particular flower, the petals are going to be in multiples of 4 or 5. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there would be, for example, this one would have 5 petals produced. Most all of your flowers of a dicot would be in either multiples of 4 or multiples of 5. The leaf structure of your dicots would have a net-like array of veins. So the veins are going to be branched out in a net-like pattern. Pollen's going to have 3 pores on it, and then look at your stem. The xylem and phloem will be arranged in a circular pattern. Your monocots are only going to have one leaf. Their flower structure is usually going to be in parts of 3. So notice the yellow part, 1, 2, 3, or then the orange part, 1, 2, 3. The pores are going to be, there's only going to be one pore on the pollen grain, and then look at the xylem and phloem of the vascular tissue is all going to be rearranged, or all going to be distributed evenly.